It is Thursday morning, my time, 6:45 a.m. I'm still not at 100%. I told you guys I got sick a couple days ago. My voice sounds a little bit better today than it was yesterday, but yeah, my mate traveling internationally from England, staying with me, passed something on to me, and so I haven't been sick since last year. It's just upper respiratory. Voice is better than yesterday. We're trending in the right direction. Let's go. As you boys are tapping in, I just want to make an announcement. The link is in the comments section below. Johnny says Boxing Insider. You click that link, join a couple bucks a month. You get access to our Discord, become part of the community. Boys, I finally figured out how to use Discord. So to all the insiders who are in Discord, I did create a new channel. It's My Locks. And I also figured out yesterday I created it the first time, but I didn't know you had to privatize it. I created the first Johnny Says Locks, and then it was up for 30 minutes, and then it had like 20 of you boys putting your locks in there. And then some of you guys were texting me like, hey, mate, dude, could you make that private so nobody could post? So then I had to take it down, recreated it. And now if you go to the Discord, I put 2 of my locks up there already. Only the Discord members could get access to that. Only the Johnny Says Boxing Insiders have access to that. That is my UFC moneyline parlay. That is up. It's paying almost 3-1. I love those picks this weekend. And then my method of victory 2-legger, somewhere around 190. My sports betting app allows us to boost. So I have the 2-leg method of victory for the boxing fights that are happening this weekend in Libya. It's a 2-legger method of victory. It's about $1.90, which I love. Both of those are pinned in our Discord. All right, moving forward, we're going to build some parlays together. The more and more I sit with this Libya card, I really like the favorites. It's nothing shocking. I watched the tape on Umiha, so the French Olympian, and I got it right in front of me. If you guys pull up your box rec, Ramirez, Cuello, Umiha, Perez. I think I'm gonna roll with those 4 I might go heavy on those 4. So on the money line, those are already looking pretty decent. What's up, Julius? Julius says Sofian versus Fonseca minus 300 to go the distance. Crazy. Fonseca got high. Yeah. So we'll get into that in a second. Adu, quiet week, but money. Of course, Adu, and sometimes, historically, for me personally, as a content creator, it's interesting, right? As a content creator, as a guy who likes to film, edit, record, film study, and upload, this has been a quiet week for me. And it kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety because I love the editing process. Those are my Stats Don't Lie videos. This will be the first week that I haven't uploaded a Stats Don't Lie video since last August. So I'm getting kind of antsy. And the reason for that, I was going to do some uploads on the Ramirez fight. I was going to do the Cuello fight. But with my voice, with not feeling 100%, I just was like, you know what? Let me just take the week off from the Stats Don't Lie video series. Let me continue to do my lives. But it is slow. But from the betting perspective, so content creator, it's slow. Betting perspective, it isn't, guys. We got boxing, we got MMA, and we're going to hit 100%. So we got Mike TV. What's up? I've got a big fight coming up. Someone I believe you covered a while back. Follow Mike TV, mate. So, Mike, I didn't realize you were an active boxer. So follow Mike TV. He's a subscriber on the channel. He's also in our Discord. And on Instagram, I realized that you were following me. I went down your profile. I shared your profile. So, yeah, guys, follow Mike TV. He's 10-0 as a boxer. He has some big fight news. And when you come up with that fight news, Mike, I'll share it on all of our channels. We'll support you. Boxing fan in the house, I appreciate you. Guys, we're 4 minutes in. We already got 25 on the chat. Let's like this video. Let's get into that habit of, as you come on and we continue this chat, let's like the video. And let's get everybody to also join our insider group. It's a couple bucks a month. That link is pinned. Julius Armstrong, yeah, they are. Julius, and we were talking about this yesterday on the feed, and I was trying to give Fonseca the benefit of the doubt. You look at his record, you look at his total fights, you look at his knockout to win ratio, and I was like, all right, maybe there's something there. And then I was sitting with Sofian, a French fighter. I'm not big on French combat athletes. Less than 10 fights. Yeah, 6 fights. And historically, over the last few months, we've seen this happen. We've seen a veteran go up against a former Olympic medalist with under 10 fights. And we've seen the Olympic medalists under 10 fights lose when they were huge favorites, Albert Bardagaziev and Golovkin. And so I was kind of hesitant, but I did watch the tape. Umiha looks like he's the real deal. And Fonseca looks like, dare I say, washed, which I don't like saying that. But yeah, Fonseca's the same guy who got stopped, seems like forever ago, against Ryan Garcia. 36-4-2. And yeah, interesting. Follow Mike TV. Yeah, GOAT. I only have follow Mike TV on our Instagram. It's that exact tagline. I think it's Mike Tyler. If my memory serves me correct, go to BoxRec. I think it's Mike Tyler. He's 10-0. He's a Brit, you know, so we love the Brits on the channel, and we'll support you. If you hit that like, put a trophy up in the chat. Nice, boxing fancy. My man is a wizard. Boxing fan's a beast. Yeah, like it. Throw a trophy up. That's a good idea, man. Dude's an animal. And if you're tapping in about 6 minutes in and you guys are insiders, you're on our Discord, check the Discord chat. I put up my 2. I'm going to probably give you guys 2 more of just my picks. It's Tyler Christopher on BoxRec. There you go, boys. Tyler Christopher on BoxRec. Check him out. Follow him. We'll support you, brother. You release your boxing news. You let us know. You'll have everyone here supporting you. And speaking of which, DAZN just released, I don't know if you guys are part of DAZN's mailing list. I think if you subscribe to the streaming service, you automatically become part of their mailing list. They just emailed everybody their updated fight schedule. They just released a lot more fights. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of action. This is kind of the calm before the storm. And I got to be honest with you, we kind of needed it, because we've been busy. Mike says, I've got my boxing page locked because I don't want my opponent to see any footage of me. Yeah, all good. Yeah, you see that a lot, man. Boxing is, and historically, boxing's sneaky like that, which in a good way. Even before social media, a lot of trainers were hush-hush. It was a thing when I was coming up. Let's say we were going to a smoker. I assume they're still smokers. I'm not quite sure. But when I was coming up in the, early 90s and mid 90s, we'd have smokers in my area where our gym would go to other gyms and try to get rounds in, and you wouldn't have any idea who you're getting rounds in with. The coaches would say, hey, I have a 12-year-old, he's 90 pounds, or I have a 10-year-old, he's 75 pounds. Do you have anything close? And then you would just get paired up, and the parents would watch. There was no cameras, and you would just fucking fight. That's literally how I grew up. That's literally, and they're illegal. So like, in the state of Ohio, unsanctioned fights are illegal. We called them smokers. Christian Morales, mate, I appreciate the support. Christian, didn't you and I meet when you were working at the spot in the CBD? Because I looked that you joined our insider list and we're linked up on Facebook. You used to work at the cool spot, the LA-based sort of spot? Yes, dude. What a small world, man. So Christian, my buddy who, he left Sydney in 2017 to move to London. He's a Brit. And Frankie's used to work at, there it is. The dude, the ironic thing about this chat right now, the dude I'd always go there with, he was a tall, thin Brit. He's staying with me. I haven't seen him in years. He's traveled. They came to Sydney to see a rugby game. I guess the Lions versus Australia. But I'm gonna tell him because that's when I used to be a madman, dude. We would be hanging out at Frankie's, getting in a lot of fun. I miss those apple whiskeys that back when I used to drink a lot. But guys, we're 10 in. Let me know who you guys like this week. If you guys haven't checked out the Discord, I don't want to persuade your opinion on the fights. Does anybody see Albert Ramirez versus Jerome Papaloni? How do you guys see that going? I like Ramirez. Ramirez is a tough out. We just covered Albert Ramirez on the channel about, it seems like it was last week. I think it was probably 2 months ago. He fought up in Canada. And then the main event, Cuello versus Rios. Guys, personally, no shade to Rios. I think these guys are in 2 separate leagues. Julius Armstrong, I agree with you. I like Ramirez to stop Jerome. Not even a lot of value on that, but Ramirez, when you watch Albert Ramirez fight, he fights like he's not a household name people talk about, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. I like a guy who's aggressive. He fights like with some urgency. You don't always see that. I think Cuello, I don't know how, it's number 15 in the world versus 223. Sergio Rios, it's tough to even find tape on him. Um, Coelho's not a perfect fighter, but when I found a couple videos of Rios. I think Cuello should get him out of there as well. So it just depends on what you boys want to do. Some of the guys who are texting me behind the scenes are loaded. I don't personally like loading up on method of victory bets. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't like. I'm never gonna put 1,000 plus on an outcome, and I've probably lost thousands by not doing that. Per se. Maybe in a match where, like, looking back, you're like, damn, I can't believe you didn't pick so and so to stop this guy. Everybody knew that. The risk versus reward for me doesn't. So if I'm going heavy, it's usually a money line, just picking winners. But I do bet, obviously, method of victory. I just won't go as heavy. But I like Albert Ramirez. I like Cuello by stoppage. I don't think my book's giving me Umiha options for method of victory. I think I just got money line. And then, guys, Saturday we have fights in Australia. I'm hoping. How about you boys, wherever you boys are? Maybe you're in America. How about you check your books real quick to see if you're getting any odds or any options for the Australian fights? It's boxing history, and the first time ever on a boxing card professionally, a mother and a son are fighting. Shotgun Shannon O'Connell comes from a very credible boxing camp. I think Shannon O'Connell might have been a former world champion. She's fighting, and her son's on the card. So hopefully we get to, and this is going to be a feeder card, 100%. These sort of, we know the story. We know boxing. We know the narrative. We know the storyline. We know what's supposed to happen. And so I'm hoping that we get money. We get options on it. And we do really well on the Aussie cards. But let me check. A sports bet isn't. I think Cuello will get it done early. Quello's good, man. Max 2000 thinks. Now, am I comparing him to Espinoza? He might be. That's wild. I think he's good, but you're comparing him to Rafa 26. I don't know. Maybe that's not so far off. Maybe it's not that wild. I guess reading that out loud when we're so used to hearing names, the usual hitters at 26, nobody really throws Cuello in there. So you're the first guy that I've ever heard compare Cuello to Rafa. Maybe, though. Who am I to say he's not? You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely going heavy on him, too, this weekend. So right now, let's hope he is. We lose nothing by saying this, right? Outside of Rafa, he's the best. No, I feel you. It's a point. Rivera, Cordova looking like a fun fight. Yeah, they just... Give me 1 second on that. Yeah, that's August 23rd. We're going to be covering that fight. I'm not getting odds on that yet. Yankiel versus Angelino Cordova. Interim WBA flyweight. This fight will be the main event. That card's actually fun, guys. That card in Orlando, the MVP card, I know personally a couple fighters on that card. Like I said, I used to manage one of the girls who were fighting on that card. If you get options, we'll wait till we get there. We got 2 weeks. We got some nice fights coming up, boys. We got some nice cards coming up. This is kind of, how like fighters in between big fights or in between layoffs or maybe after a loss, they have a stay busy fight. This is our stay busy weekend. just to keep our minds sharp regarding like where we're going with our money. It's a stay busy weekend. But yeah, I was looking at this whole Orlando card is fun. There's actually good matchups on it. Shout out to MVP on that, right? And so I was watching Gary. It should be a dogfight for sure. It should be a dogfight. Some of the boys, Gary was talking about how he didn't like that the WBA is allegedly elevating Ennis. I think Ennis Tellis to champion at 54, and then Jazza Dickens at 130. Look, the 154 elevation is kind of a head scratcher. I don't mind Jazza getting elevated. What's up, Socks? Good evening, good morning. Let's do it. I don't mind Jazza getting elevated, mate. Jazza is an old head, mid-30s. You know, in my opinion, it would be criminal for everything Jazza has done in his career for him not to ever, be a world champion. I would love that story. He goes into Turkey as a 6-1 dog against an undefeated gold medalist in Albert Bardagaziev, and he stops him, dude. Let's go. Elevate Jazza. I love it. I love putting Jazza 130. Sugar Nunes, who is a champion at 30, they just announced Sugar Nunes' next fight. That was the email that they're sending out. So if you guys are DAZN subscribers, check out your email. They just announced Sugar Nunes' first defense. The Boots versus Lima fight is for the interim WBA title. Did they? Hold on. What did I miss? Pedro says, word on the street is that the names that were thrown out for Boots are smoke and mirrors and that he's actually fighting Usman Lima. Yeah, when it comes to, like, Jaron Ennis, when it comes to guys who are traditionally clickbait fighters from the American boxing content creators, I don't pay attention to matchups until we see it on the dotted line. Because these channels use their names to get clicks. We all know that. And it's why... And real boxing fans get pissed at that. So like a year and a half, 2 years ago when I'm trying to grow my channel, I wasn't doing that intentively, but I would do videos and talk about potential matchups or, rumor mill, and you guys would get pissed. People would in the comments would be like, dude, I'm tired. Why are you talking about a fight that isn't official? Some people would like it, some people wouldn't. Obviously, I think the masses like it, but it always stuck with me. I like that I was talked out of doing that, and that's where we are today. Is I stay focused week to week. I'm never going to cover a fight that's a potential fight. We could talk about it on the chat, but I'm not going to feature it on the channel. So, yeah, Boots is one of those names that they use to get clicks. Tank Davis. They've been using – it's so tiresome trying to watch other, when they do that on YouTube. They'll make Boots versus Tellis, that's why. Could be, Max. I like that. I'd rather see Boots versus Tellis than Boots versus Lima. Cordova going to get pressure on Yankel. Can Yankel? That's a good question, Julius. That's going to be a firefight, boys. Cordova versus Crawford is on steroids. I mean, all right, George. Boots' career trajectory is falling off. What do you mean? His career trajectory is falling off a cliff? I don't understand. What are you talking about? He's 27 years old. He's was a world champion at 47. What is he, 32-0 with 28 knockouts? He just beat a guy in Stanionis, which a lot of people were trying to say Stanionis was going to win. Everybody they put in front of him, he's beaten. How his career's fallen off? That is an insane take. I think his career's right exactly where it wants to be. Never been arrested, never tested dirty for a drug, never been in the media negatively, never, knock on wood, has had to take time off due to an injury, stays in the gym, lives in the gym, does everything right, trains. His career's fallen off is an insane statement. And also, you guys saying Boots is ducking, that's another insane statement. I think, hold up. Look at George being slick. Goat, are you in the chat or any of the insiders in the chat? Is George Goku? Maybe we got George. Maybe George is Goku, who used to be good. Boots is almost 30 with one good name, but that's all. You're giving your opinion. You're projecting. Boots almost 30. He got one good name and a bunch of no names. I mean, you can only fight who they put in front of you, mate. What are you talking about? The dude's one of the best in the world. What he does, watch him fight. His skill set, his athleticism, he's a dog. If anything, I'd like to see him tighten his defense up a bit. But, dude, come on, dude. That's an insane take. You don't even have to be a Boots fan to say that dude's one of the best in the world. And the idea that Boots would duck someone is insane as well. Yeah, and Boots is 28, dude. Goat, it is good. he kind of went from a nuanced name to a first name. I think Goku good. So why didn't Boots unify the division? That's a question we could talk about. Follow Mike TV. That's a chat. I think personally, Mike, why Boots didn't unify. the only way you could unify is if other champions are going to sign on the dotted line to fight you. B, he's been sitting at 47 for a while. It's no secret that the dude is massive. So obviously he outgrew the division, but you know you can only fight people who want to fight you. I mean, truthfully, even if you're not a Boots fan, let's say you have a thing against Philly fighters, just for the sake of the argument. Do you think anyone at 47 would have beaten him? Look, I don't care what people say. I'm high on Brian Norman Jr. Brian Norman Jr. is not beating Jerron Ennis. I think those are just the facts. You think Raleigh's going to beat Boots Ennis? You think Mario Barrios is going to beat Boots Ennis? If there was a round robin tournament, I think Jerron could beat all three in one night. If you really want to get me controversial, you put Boots against Raleigh first. Boots would stop him early. Then I would then put maybe Norman Jr. in between Raleigh and Barrios in the same night. I think that would be. I think Boots. I would favor Boots if we lived in a make-believe world. I would still probably favor. And I'm not a diehard Boots fan. Just based off of what he presents. George is definitely yeah. Pedro. The Norman fight is dangerous. Yeah, Norman's tiny though, man. Norman's not a huge welterweight. We've never seen good Goku or no. Boots started at 40, 54. You got to fight. I mean, okay, guys. Julius brings up a good point. Boots started at 40. At 54, he got to fight big names only. Who at 54 is fighting big names only? I mean, we need to see Murtazaila fighting big names only, who's a champion. We need to see, Seb. Who's he really fought? I mean, Booker and Zoo. So if you're comparing Boots, if you're using that narrative, what are you comparing that narrative to? What are you using? The only way that narrative is strong is if somebody at 54 who's a champion is going through all these big names. And for how much a lot of people, one of my favorite guys at 54 is Virgil. I mean, Virgil's the guy who has wins over Boacek and Madrimov over his last two fights. So, and he's not even a champion, which is insane. So I think Boots beats Zayas. I would like to see Boots. I think Boots would handle Zayas easily, to be honest with you. At this stage of the game. Follow Mike TV. I think he is. B Money in the house. Maurice L. Mama Son. Yeah, if we get those options, Maurice L., you know we're eating. Victor Vallejo. Yes, brother Boots, man. That's right. Socks. Boots for Crawford is something I would want to see. Yeah, I just think, Bud is... I did a video on this last year. Bud doesn't like looking back. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be shocked if after the Canelo fight, Bud steps away. Boots versus Bacham or Boots versus Virgil. I'm down with that, Julius. Let's do it. George, let me know when Boots fights someone legit. I mean, to say Stanionis wasn't legit, I'd like to see a lot of those guys at 47 other than Boots and when Bud did. How the champions at 47, how would Brian Norman Jr. handle Chukachin? I mean, how would Brian Norman Jr. handle Karen Chukachin? Or how would Brian Norman Jr. handle Avanesyan? Like these guys are tough outs, dude. These aren't easy victories. Or even Norman Jr. versus Stanionis. Virgil has two fights now. He's gonna, dude. I love that fight. Thurman's no easy out. Thurman has one loss. Thurman is a dog. He's not as young as he used to be, but Keith Thurman, man, what Keith Thurman does really well is he could punch at angles. Like Keith Thurman, his punching style and his strengths go against everything a coach would teach you. Sit down on your power shots, dig your heels in, turn your shoulders, dig your hips, sit down. Thurman will carry that power angling off and shuffling and pop. Like he has sneaky, awkward, unorthodox power. That is a fight that is, man, Keith Thurman is still a problem. Xander has some respectable names. I mean, when you're a world champion, you're going to have respect. I respect all fighters. So, I mean, obviously, what have you done for me lately? Chino's a great name. The guy he just beat. Boots versus Conwell debut. I love that. Let's go. Charles would be hungry too. Let's go. Ennis Tellis versus Baruz, elite legit fight. Yep. Victor, Johnny W, and Chat W. Appreciate you, brother. Boots versus Virgil, please. Buzzler 165. Let's go. I'd love to see that. Guys, let's hit the like. Let's hit the like. Let's subscribe. Appreciate you, Boxing Fan Guide in the chat. Guys, we're about almost 30 minutes in. If you want my UFC picks, the locks, and if you want my method of victory picks and my gambling tips on the parlays, they're in the Discord. Join the Discord by clicking the link pinned here. I see Haney beating Norman the more I think. Sucks. I think as bettors, what we're going to have to do, guys, going into November, and this is sort of an asterisk, we must forget recency bias. I think it'd be wise to go into that when you're thinking about who to put money on, you're doing your film study, you're listening to guys like myself. It'd be wise not to just remember. Brian's looked great as of late. It's going to really come down to what Brian is learning to do and what Devin does really well and where Devin's flaws are, which we already know. I'm not going to just sit here and tell you Brian's going to beat him. I think I still need time on that. November seems like a year away. We have so much to happen. Before here and now, dude, I'm still stressed about doing the film study on Bud and Canelo. Call me crazy, but I love to see JR and Boots in the pros. Yep, same. You're not crazy, man. Gary Antoine Russell's an animal. Devin, a Hall of Famer. He's done a lot. Young Buck's still done a lot. I see Boots versus Stanionis. Yeah. I ended up winning a lot of money on Boots versus Stanionis with the stoppage and Boots on the money, the under and the knockout. Heaven sent, you got to join the Discord, brother. It's a couple bucks a month. So what you do is you support me, you support the channel, become an insider. The link is pinned here. You see all the boys in the chat with the blue star? They're insiders. As soon as you become an insider on the channel, you get perks, but more importantly, you become part of our Discord community. We got professional bettors in there. We got guys who are betting thousands, and you also get my picks. I disagree, George. UFC is definitely in a decline. The reason why, and that's not even a shocking statement, the reason why UFC is in a decline is because the lack of big stars, and it's been watered down, and Dana obviously isn't as focused as he's ever been. Sometimes volume isn't good in anything, right? And, I think they should have stepped away from doing fights at the Apex since the pandemic. It worked during the pandemic because no sports sort of organizations were going forward except, the UFC, and it was fun. But now it's almost like there's a fight every week. UFC is turning into a sport of like, keep it in the background. It used to be a sport of like, hey, bro, so-and-so's fighting. Let's get the pay-per-view. Let's get some, but it's not like that anymore. There's no big stars. There's too much parity. And it's kind of just, and kudos to Dana. He built it into a well-oiled machine. He sold it, made a lot. One of the greatest entrepreneurial steals in American business history was in 2002, 2003, when Dana White pitched the Fertitta brothers, these already self-made multi-millionaire entrepreneurs from Vegas, and he talked them into buying the UFC for $1 million. Fast forward 12, 13, 14 years later, and they sold it for $4 billion. Let's eat. So, the point is, it's 100% not better than. Now, if you like cage fighting because you're a mixed martial artist, that's one thing. But if we're talking about sort of quality of class and we're talking about the sport itself, the UFC's only been around, MMA's only been around since 1993. Boxing's way more older, has way more international pull, and it's a purist sport. What's more romantic than you have a squared ring, a squared circle, you have two men with two fists, one bell, who's the better man? So I always say boxing is chess, MMA is checkers in terms of the game planning, which could be controversial, but that's how I look at it. Heaven sent, yeah, comes out conditioning coach. He better get some conditioning. DDP's going to put it on that boy. Cuello, TKO, yep. Julius, we're on the same page, brother. Heaven sent, these new guys coming in, Wellmaker, nerds. Yeah, they're good, but Patty's not really new. Patty and Ian Gary, we've been highlighting Patty and Ian Gary since 2016 on the channel, since they've been fighting in Cage Warriors. Guys, if you're new to the channel and you think this is just a boxing channel, you're going to come up with some outrageous claims about MMA and boxing, I'm going to learn you and educate you. Boxing fan Heaven said Pedro Haney did what he did as a part of a plan because Ramirez. Yeah, Haney needed to get a W, Pedro. I agree. Haney, we're talking about the Times Square card. Ramirez is former world champion, big puncher. It was that whole card was awkward though. You know, I not having the crowd is a huge thing. Similar to what I said about the UFC Apex about how too many cards. The Apex doesn't have a crowd, and as fighters, whether you're fighting in a cage or a boxer, such as the Times Square card, energy is human. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a thing. Big players step up and big players make big plays in big games. A lot of that is the lights and the energy of the crowd. I got Duplessis putting belt to ass against Hamzat, mate. I've been winning money on Duplessis his whole career. People look at Duplessis, DDP on the surface, mate. Dude, that dude's a monster. His cardio, his tank, he's super unorthodox. He's strong as hell. He's a champion. When he won his first fight in the UFC and he grabbed the microphone inside the octagon and he gave two speeches, one in Afrikaans. He's a proud South African. And then he spoke in English. I was like, this dude is a goddamn nightmare. Because we know historically, politically, and I avoid politics on the channel, South Africa, we know over the last 30, 40 years what they've gone through, everything. And usually white South Africans will shy away from their nationalism. The only reason I reference that, Duplessis didn't. That doesn't tell you about, so much his character. It tells you about his intent. Watch him fight. I won money on him. Since he got into the UFC, I was like, this dude is a monster. And he's getting better, which is insane. The only one that loses to Boots is Norman Jr. Well, that's at 47, Sal. He moved up to 54. I think there's guys I think Virgil would be a tough out. I think Virgil would give Boots a handful. You guys think I'm crazy, man. I think Madrimov would give Boots a handful. Madrimov, you guys don't talk about. He lost 2 fights. And allegedly he wasn't healthy. He wasn't well against Virgil. The Madrimov versus Bud Crawford would give Boots Ennis all he would want. I'm skeptical of Dana entering boxing. Well, Dana's been in boxing. Dana started in boxing. Dana had to flee Boston back in the 90s to Vegas because of the Boston Mafia. Look into this. He was a boxing promoter, had to flee Boston because it was getting too dangerous, and goes to and then got involved with MMA. He saw it as a business opportunity. He saw a gap in the market. So Dana's strengths was his visionary approach to business, and obviously that turned into one of the best marketers and promoters. Live betting DDP Hamzat Russell. Hamzat versus Drake is more exciting. Dude, look, Hamzat struggled with 155-pound Gilbert Burns, mate. Hamzat, the guy who steamrolled, those first few fights during the pandemic when who's the big white boy out of South Florida? He came up through the Milwaukee regional scene. He's like 38 now, massive dude, grappler. I think he might have the most submissions in it's either welterweight or middleweight history. And then, Hamzat stopped, finished him in like 40 seconds. That's not going to happen. I just learned that you can bet on Ice Cube's Big 3 League. Uh-oh, GOAT. Oh, no. DDP by Voodoo. Well, he's Afrikaans, so he's not, if you're referring to his ethnicity being South African, his roots actually go back to the Netherlands, so he's Dutch. That's the Afrikaans. Victor, Johnny Bossman, he knows more boxing. I'm just an old head, boys. I'm just an old head, and I give you boys what you want. Henry Williams, who you picking the Cuello match? Yeah, good. No, I'm going to take Cuello. If you want to play it safe, Henry Williams, take Cuello on the money line. Put him part of a longer parlay. If you want to get sexy, Cuello by stoppage. I think he's probably 2 leagues above Rios. I don't know who the matchmaking is. This is a fight in Benghazi, Libya, so it could just be one of these cases they just needed to get Cuello work. He should stop him. Go, boo. Heaven said the Hamzat versus DDP press conference, let alone face-off. Yeah, it is. We'll see. No punks. Both guys are tough as nails. Hamzat's a machine. He's an animal. Mearshot. There he is. Yeah. Gerald Mearshot. What are they? That guy, Gerald Mearshot. How did I forget him? Super slow and lethargic. Mearshot. But, when he went on that little streak, his first 3-4 wins, and then you see the adjustments that Gilbert Burns made and how Burns fought him, totally different. Hamzat went life and death with a natural 155er. That's all I'm going to say. And Hamzat is huge. They fought at 170, but Gil, cut his teeth at 55. When's the next collab with Gary 3? We're waiting. Appreciate Adu. Yeah, we're going to do one for a major fight card. Adu, we got something coming up. Hopefully we could get one in before Bud Crawford and Canelo, because I know he's leaning on Bud. I just saw his live today. He was leaning on Crawford to beat Canelo. He thinks he's going to outbox him. Gary is under the impression that the Canelo we saw against William Skull is the Canelo who he is. I don't. I'm under the impression that the Canelo we saw against William Skull was a guy who wanted to stay busy, not take any damage, and go into Bud Crawford sharper, and, if anything, paint a sort of false rhetoric about who he really is. I don't think Canelo's washed. I'm not trolling Johnny or chat. Yeah, Victor, we appreciate you having here. We know you're not trolling. This is a supportive chat. Heaven sent. DDP got a good mouthpiece, made it. Heaven sent. And heaven sent. In the fight game, that matters. Conor used it to his advantage until he ran into Nate Diaz. Conor was using his mouthpiece up until the Nate Diaz fight, and Nate was the first guy to be like, I don't care what you say. You ain't better than me. But up until that, you saw Conor getting in the guys' heads all the way back when Conor fought Marcus Brimage. And then I remember when Chad fought him on short notice. And then the Diego Brandao fight. He had Diego Brandao was a very dangerous guy, dude. And Brandao came to Ireland. I think that's when they fought in Dublin. And the pressers were insane. Obviously, the first Dustin Poirier fight, when they fought at 145, when he stopped him in the first minute. And then he used all that trash talk up until, they fought years later. But Conor had already lost before they had fought the second time. Goat, Ammo versus Jai Tucker. Is that official? Goat, is that official? I'm probably taking Tucker on some quiet. I'm not high on Ammo, mate. Ammo will go life. Ammo's fun to watch. Ammo's entertainment. Ammo will go life and death with a cabbie, but he'll also fight a world-class guy and go like, Ammo's one of these guys, man. If you're a gambler, you are sweating every second of the way. For the sake of that, I'm going with Jahai. If Tucker's the underdog, I'm going heavy on Tucker. Heaven sent, these are my words. If Hamzat says something about DDP's sexuality, what the hell? I don't know about that, Heaven sent. That's not my wheelhouse. I don't really market myself as an expert in the personal stuff. Goat, I'm very convinced on Canelo. All right, you see what I'm talking about, Goat? It's tough. Guys, if Mike TV's still on the live, he's a pro, he's a boxer, he's 10-0, he's a pro boxer. I'd like to get his opinion on this because sometimes it's good for you guys to get, third-party advice, not just from me. And what Goat is talking about, I'm very convinced on Canelo. When I reason with that statement, it's because, dude, the fight's at 168 pounds, mate. There's a big difference with what you walk around at and what you're used to moving this meat vehicle at. You know what I mean? When this meat vehicle is used to be operating at a certain size and weight, and then you add pounds to that meat vehicle and you're supposed to still operate it the same way, it's a different operating system. That has to be spoken about. You know what I mean? King Ty, how do you feel about Raymond Ford fight? Ooh, Nova versus Ford, that's going to be a good fight. Where they're trending, if that fight would have happened 3 years ago, I would have actually taken Nova. The fight's happening now, I'm taking Ford. Jazz says Gary 3D also likes Goodman. I watched Goodman versus Vaca, and he looked good. Yeah. Jazz, I was at the fight. I was at Goodman versus Vaca in Sydney. We won a lot. We hit a 22-1 on that card, boy. That started us Australian eating. He's tough, man. I've been saying Goodman for the last month. I didn't know Gary was leaning with Goodman too. And maybe I'd like to hear his output, his reasonings. You guys have heard my reasons all month on why I like Sam Goodman. So I like that. No, he could take the attack. So Jazz, Sam Goodman is good enough as a boxer to where he's not going to use durability or high guard to take Ball's attack. He's going to use his feet. So he's going to use his feet and his feints. He'll make Goodman bite, angle, bite, lean in, bite, jab. That's how he boxes. The Crawford versus Majmar fight is as good as a barometer of how the Canelo fight. I just wish you boys wouldn't. if you're going to use the barometer, Bud versus Madrimov, you you need to realize how good Israel Madrimov is first, though. You know, I've done go back and watch my breakdown before the fight. Go down and watch my recap after the fight if you want. Israel Madrimov is a hell of a goddamn boxer, world class. He will give anybody a 54. Dude, he is an animal. He's a really good fighter. Just his skill set, what he does. The problem he brings into the ring is you don't see that every day. This. You know, if he could ever get his output on point in terms of meshing his feints together with his punches, you know, boxing's a tricky thing. Blue Collar in the house. What's up, brother? Appreciate the support. We got a new member. We got a new Johnny Says Boxing member. Who is that just joining? Blue Collar, you got a sponsor, man. We Blue Collar, go to our Discord, brother. We just put up a new channel in the Discord. You guys asked for my locks. So I gave you my UFC locks in the Discord, and I gave you my Libya locks. How you feel about King Ty? How do I feel about Moses? Moses is a real deal. I mean, Dillian White, 37, I think now. Mike D. Heaven said, would you say they good? What am I missing here? Okay, King Ty. How you feel about Moses? I like the Nick Ball pick, but the problem is have their judges and say, okay, Max, let's talk about that real quick. I don't agree with that if you're hesitant on the judges. Max says, I like the ball pick, but the problem I have is the judges in Saudi love watching Nick Ball throw overhands like hitting nothing but gloves. You're basing it on what's happened there before. I don't know. Somebody keeps breaking. It's not just you. It's something we have to think about as gamblers. Give me some time. We still got a week. So we got Heaven Sent saying, would you say that Goodman is a better fighter compared to Ford? I believe Ford could have won if he listened to his corner. Yeah. Ford is super athletic. Sam Goodman is a really good boxer. Nick Ball's athletic and explosive. Sam Goodman is a really good boxer. It's boxing. It's not CrossFit. I think Ford is getting better. I really do. The Ford I saw 3 years ago is not the same Ford. Even the Ford against the Gunner man, Thomas Matisse. He's paying more attention to his offense. He's being a little bit more offensive minded and not relying just on sort of his speed to get out of situations. He's kind of staying in the pocket a bit more, which is good to see. Some people think Ford beat Ball. I mean, have you rewatched that fight? Let me know what you think. Because, I don't like sort of rewinding history and then making predictions based on bad decisions. Because every fighter, guys, leaves a little bit of something in the ring. Every fight, you lose a little bit. You do. Every fight, whether, but this is why Canelo versus Skull, Canelo didn't lose anything in that fight. I'm talking physical. He didn't lose, but think about Galalia 5 versus Francisco Rodriguez Jr. You know what I'm saying? We know that Francisco Rodriguez Jr. popped dirty, and we know that loss was overturned. But think about how much Galalia 5 lost, not just on paper. That's what I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. Canelo versus Skull, in my opinion, was a business decision on Canelo's end. He knew he had the Crawford fight. He probably, in my opinion, that was him saving himself. He could do just enough to win the fight. He knew the fight was going to come up. The only way he was going to lose that fight is if Skull stops him. He knew that the aura of fighting Canelo would be too much for Skull to put himself in dangerous positions. He didn't lose anything. He didn't even get touched. So, every fighter generally in every fight leaves a little bit of themselves in that ring. So that in some fighters, like with Brian Norman Jr., when he fought Gio Santillan, that's not the same guy who fought Jin Sasaki, but that's an example of a guy being young and evolving and getting better. And Santillan, we forget Santillan was the underdog against Rocha, he won. Brian Norman Jr. was the underdog against Santillan, he won. Derek Cuevas was supposed to be the big puncher who couldn't be stopped. Norman stopped him. Jin Sasaki was the Japanese sort of unknown to the mainstream, but the boxing heads knew him. Big puncher. His only loss at the time was Andy Hiroka at 140. And in the Sasaki camp said it's because Sasaki was drained. Norman Jr. stopped him. So my point is, I don't really like rewinding history and then using that to kind of prove a point on an upcoming match. We'll see. We get to have all these answers. I think Sam Goodman is the better boxer than Nick Ball. Nick Ball is a monster. His offense, his pressure, his aggression, his front foot style is too much for everybody he's fought so far. Will it be too much for Sam Goodman? You give me Sam Goodman at plus 450, I'm gonna ride and die on that mountain, boys. I don't care that I lost last weekend with Kenny Sims Jr. We got him at plus 295. You give me Kenny Sims at plus 295 against Huerte, I'm riding and dying with that. You give me Goodman at plus 450, plus 500, let's eat. So that's my whole point. We have to take that into consideration as well. Scared money don't make money. All right, what we got? Mike TV, Crawford is my favorite fighter, but we won't see the same Crawford we're all used to. The fighting at weight. Yep. Thanks for answering that, Mike. Ford, Moses, and Ennis are King Ty's locks. Good luck, brother. I like those. I don't see Canelo. Follow Mike TV says, I don't see Canelo being as modest with his punches as he was at Skull. Yeah, I agree. I think it was evident, too. I think it was evident. Even in his body language. You know what I mean? It's not like, rewatch the fight, boys. Watch his interactions with his corner. It kind of was like a unspoken thing. They weren't like, you know, it wasn't like when you watch Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman and Edwards' corner, Leon, come on, Leon, you're losing. It wasn't that. It was just like, you know what I mean? It was almost like a foregone conclusion. History Vault in the house. Victor Vallejo, Eubank Jr. versus Ben rematch. Guys, I don't like that rematch, man. This is Victor Vallejo brings a perfect point. This is a perfect example of guys leaving themselves in the ring. Both guys are British level fighters, no offense. Both guys got hit way too much. They gave the fans what they wanted. Old school fun scraps, super entertaining. I loved it. But they left a lot in that ring. This is probably Eubank Jr.'s last fight, if you ask me. And this is probably evidence that Conor Benn isn't really going to try to become a world champion. Unless he's delusional enough to think that after this fight, he's going to be just as sharp and just as good. He got hit clean so many goddamn times, dude. From a neurological perspective, even if it's just an eyelash of damage that sticks with you, he got hit so many goddamn times. Sox, Ball, and Goodman for the draw. Let's go. What's that paying? What, 1,600? I do. That's the reason I'm going with Ball. The aggressor gets the judge's attention. And that's Sam won't be able to hurt. I agree. It's a good reason. I mean, he is the favorite. Is this argument stronger for you to bet with Ball financially than see, this is the question, Adu. If I'm is the argument stronger financially for you to bet on Ball winning or bet on Goodman winning? I actually would say the financial argument is stronger to take Goodman. But logically, the logical reason, who's the natural 126? Goodman's coming from 22. Goodman has, doesn't have one punch knockout. So yeah, it's not like the odd. I don't think the odds makers are getting it wrong with Goodman being that big of a dog. I'm just saying the dogs could be barking. Inoue would wreck Ball. I don't know, man. I don't know. Inoue for a few rounds went life and death with Ramon Cardenas at 122. And Ramon Cardenas fought Inoue's fight and dropped him. That's all I'm saying. Unknown Jay in the house. What's up, brother? What's your pick on? Yeah, great question, Unknown. I told you guys last night I was going to sit with this tape after much consideration. Sofiane the Frenchman, it's his fight. I don't know what odds you guys are getting. Heaven Sent says Baranchik, Stenionis, Skull, Hector Garcia. Who do you guys think we will see back this year? I want to see, of all those guys you mentioned, I want to see Stenionis back. Who do I want to see back? Who do I think we'll see back first? I want to see Stanionis, then Skull. I think Dennis is probably done. Wouldn't you say, Baranchek? Was he 37 now? I don't see Baranchek making another run. Mar the Prince says, I don't put much stock in Alvarez Skull. Canelo was likely just trying to do the bare minimum. That's exactly right. Mar the Prince. Blue Collar Living says, the best bet in the Ball Goodman fight is, yes, I think so. Because the thing about Sammy Goodman, even if you don't want to pick him to win, he's tough as nails. He's mean. He's a fighter. You know, we talked about this. There's boxers and there's fighters. Not all boxers are fighters. Sam Goodman's a fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like, George St. Pierre, one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, he was a mixed martial artist. He wasn't a fighter. You watch him give interviews, he'll tell you that. And that's not shade. The point is, if this fight will go to the decision, Sam Goodman will not be looking for a way out. Sam Goodman's a dog. Doesn't have one punch pop. He can box, though. He can move. Will it go the distance? I love that at plus 130. Dude, if you really want to get sexy with it, you take Goodman by decision. That's probably paying nice. Maurice Sofian, Blue Collar, 130. Love those odds. That is crazy value. Eubank was in the hospital for 4 days after the fight. Max, man, rewatch. It was a brutal fight, Max. We're talking about the rematch for Eubank Jr. and Ben. It was hard. There were moments in the fight where it was hard to watch, especially everything that we know in the history of, you know, what's happened in their lineage with Nigel Benn. Mike D says, from memory, didn't Goodman outbox Espinoza early, then struggle in the last couple of rounds against Espinoza? That was a 10-round fight. Is Espinoza Cesar Vaca? Are you talking his last fight in Sydney against the Mexican? He actually got cut in that fight too. So this is something to think about, guys. Sam Goodman only, you know, got those cuts less than a year ago in sparring. Maybe it's something to think about. Because if you're picking the fight to go the distance and Sam gets cut, we know Ball's style, head forward. He wants to put his head on your chest, those hooks. A cut could happen, mate. So if a cut happens and the fight to go the distance, you lose. I was at the Goodman-Aleem fight. It was a banger. Guys, we're 52 minutes in. Let's like this video. Jazz says, knowing Canelo, he will duck Shiraz and fight Eubank next. The fraud. Shiraz is a good name. Who do we see Shiraz fighting next, though? Okay, Jazz, you can't call Canelo a fraud without calling Shiraz. You can't call Canelo a duck without calling Shiraz a duck. Are we just going to forget about Shiraz ducked Alam Hanalei at 160? You know what I'm saying? Are we going to forget about Shiraz was the one talking about he was going to unify and become undisputed, become a champion at 160? And then he had a contract from Janibek that was supposed to go down. And last 11th hour, Shiraz pulls out, and Alam Hanalei had to come down here in Australia to fight Mikhailovich, some Russian dude who lives in Sydney who's like a club-level guy. We forget about that. And then he loses to Adames. I've watched that twice. Adames from the mid-fight onwards broke him pretty much psychologically. Say what you will. Maybe Shiraz had a hurt hand. He didn't win that fight. Thank God he didn't get robbed. Thank God the belt didn't switch over. And then all of a sudden you have a guy in Shiraz who says he's going to, you know, unify, become a champion, become undisputed at 60. All of a sudden he doesn't do it, and he moves to 68, and he fights Berlanga, you know, stops him, looks good. But this whole rewrite the narrative that Canelo's going to duck Shiraz. All right, what about Shiraz then? You can't say that about him if Shiraz 100% ducked Alam Hanalei. That's a fact. Look into it. Nobody's calling out Janibek. They're trying to age Janibek out. Alam Hanalei is a nightmare. I know he's a big dude. You know, part of me is like, you know, I want Alam Hanalei to move up to 68 and see what time it is. But that dude's a problem, man. Shiraz didn't want anything to do with that dude. And, you know, do I really want to see Shiraz versus Canelo? No. If Shiraz thinks he's that dude, and Benny couldn't get Canelo, Let Benny come back down to 68 and fight Shiraz. See what time it is. That's a fight I'll get hype over. Benavidez can make 68. Bring him down to 68. Put him in there with Shiraz and see what's really good. Shiraz shook hands with Janibek the fight after the Damas fight. Yep. He's a big dude. Can fight, mate. Man, bro, hombre. No one said, man, let's get a David Benavidez versus Hamza fight. Ben Whitaker, nah, I'm not sold on Benny Whitaker, mate. I mean, maybe actually Gasville. It's not, maybe. Yeah, I think there's too many issues with Ben Whitaker to, I think Hamza proved to me that he deserves to be in the upper echelon. I don't think Whitaker, as of now, is. We'll see what you know, Andy Lee does with him. He did look good against Liam in his last fight. I think that was an early stoppage, by the way. You're fighting a rematch against Liam Cameron, who they both hate each other, and the ref stops it on the ropes with a standing 8 count. I was like, what are we doing, dude? Yeah, Andy Lee. That's what I was saying. I don't think that would happen. Hamza versus Plant. That's a bad matchup for Plant. I want to see how. We'll see. He needs a. You know, I don't want to jump into the. Canelo needs to get. Canelo has Crawford next. Hamza's the one who doesn't have a fight. We'll see. 168 has some guys in there that nobody talks about that would be good matchups for Hamza. I think it's kind of disrespectful for Hamza and Turkey to already act like that Hamza has done enough in his career to be able to call his shots. He hasn't done anything in his career. He beat he beat a 154 guy in Ammo Williams. I'll stand on that. Ammo's not a 160. Went tooth and nail, life and death with Ammo. He then lost to Adames, which he got a draw. Then he ran from Alam Hanalei to go to 68. Then, in your own words, he fought a cab driver in Berlanga, even though I took Ed to win. That's not enough for me. He is no way has done enough to call his own shots. So he needs to, let's go back. You know, you're an old school fighter. You know, there are a lot of upsides. He looked great in his last fight. You know, fight more. Let's see him get a couple more fights. Yeah, Turkey doesn't know shit about boxing, mate. Yeah, dude, sports washing, boys. What's happening with the Saudis, it is sports washing. I talk about this on my channel once a week. It's what Hitler did in World War II with the 1936 Munich Olympic Games. Governments have done this, you know, since the end of dawn, you know, using sports internationally to hide whatever's happened politically or tyranny within the country. The Saudis have been doing this since they got into golf. LIV, they've been doing this with F1, they've been doing this with MMA, they're doing it with boxing. It's sports washing. Go back and look at what happened with the journalist from the Washington Post, Jamal Khashoggi. Turki Al-Sheikh's there in the consulate. He was part of that. It's insane that people think that Turkey was just born and he's a boxing fan. No, dude, this has nothing to do with boxing. This is called sports washing. Hand history vault. Johnny Hearn made a 5th offer. Yeah, rumor says Boots finally got his first opponent. History, who is it? I mean, people are, dude, no shit. Dude, they offered PBK 250. Come on, man. They could have given Josh at least 500. Josh was making 250 when he fought Ray Robinson in New York like 5 years ago. Yeah, the fans are not going to be happy with Usma Lima. Yeah, the fans aren't going to be stoked. Yeah, I mean, did they put the contracts out there? Lima's probably the only guy to accept 250 because they're not gonna up their value, and it's disrespectful to offer Josh Kelly and those other boys 250. No offense, but some of the girls on the undercard of the Serrano fight made 250. Josh is 31 years old now, former Olympian. 250 is insane. Victor in the house. You're good. You're good, champ. We're an hour in, boys. Like this video. Go to our Discord right now. All the insiders. Check out my 2 parlays I put up there for you. We created a new Discord channel, Johnny's Picks, upon your request, and I'm gonna give you my long parlay today. Han Hirschval, we have to wait for the announcement. Shouldn't be too long. All right, brother. I'll keep my eyes open. Jazz, who is your all-stay all-time commentary lineup? Mine is Emmanuel Stewart, Richie Woodall, Prime Jim Lampley. Yeah, what a great question. Emmanuel Stewart's definitely in there, and 90s Jim Lampley I like. But then we had his name's slipping my. I'd have to think about it. There's a guy from the 60s, a legend. Bert Sugar, maybe? Boxing historian. We get Bert doing color. Let's go. But good question. Yeah, the recent Jim Lampley is awful. No offense. He's a paid industry plant at this point. The biasness, the trash talk he was talking about fighters in the Times Square card was insane. But the Jim Lampley from the 90s and early 2000s, he's a legend. It's unfortunate what happens to us when people sort of dangle sort of temptation in front of us as men, whether it's money, women, whatever your temptation is. Humans, if you don't have a strong ethical, moral compass or strong roots or something to center you, we could be really weak creatures. So unfortunately with that, without getting too conspiratorial, that's Jim Lampley. They obviously gave him, he got paid to spit a narrative. That was unfortunate. Even if you're a Devin Haney hater, you can't watch that card and not admit something was up with what they were saying. Even the Teo card, they were propping Teo up like he was goddamn Muhammad Ali against ABJ. Watch that fight again. Teo didn't drop Barboza Jr. Barboza Jr. at no point, in my opinion, looked like he was in any sort of trouble. He was the slower guy. Teo was doing the nicer optic stuff, but the commentary was acting like Teofimo Lopez was goddamn, Carlos Monzon on his 52, fight, stoppage streak or something like that. Like, what are we talking about? This is a little bit more competitive than you guys are acting out. And then, it was an odd Jim Lampley, mate. History Vault, Lima wasn't in the WBA last month, and so this month, boom, number 10. The corruption is real, boys. Guys, I'm gonna come a stop to the stream. I'm gonna go live one more time today. We got the UFC to talk about. We got money to make. It's a slow week, but it's not a week off. Go to the Discord right now if you haven't checked it today, all you insiders. Go find my 2 locks. We have the new channel. We got the boxing, the MMA, the parlays, which you boys are keeping, doing a fantastic job. And then upon your request, I started a private channel with just my picks, Johnny's Picks. I put 2 up already today. Guys, take advantage of this. If you're not a member, click the link that's pinned here. It's a couple dollars a month on YouTube. It helps me out. It supports the cause. But more importantly, you become part of our community. Thank you, boxing fan. Appreciate you. Thank you, Victor.